So Iran has played their first 2 matches of the third round of Asian World Cup qualification, and I want to do a series on the channel where I talk about the pair of matches that they played during the international window, because there always seems to be something to talk about, from the call-ups to the squad selection, from the performances. So I'm going to be doing that throughout the third round of qualification. So hopefully they just finish in that first or second place spot so we don't have to continue this for a fourth and fifth round, but I'm pretty confident they'll finish in one of those first or second place spots. And if you're a big fan of Asian football, and more specifically the Iranian national team, this is the channel that you need to be at when it comes to coverage and content talking about the national team. So make sure you're subscribed, because there's going to be loads of content talking about Iran leading up to the 2026 World Cup. So in their first 2 matches, they faced off against Kyrgyzstan and UAE. When it comes to talking about these 2 matches, I'll start with the positives, then move on to the negatives, because I think it's best to start off this video on what we did right, which I think there's definitely less positives than there is negatives. Even though Iran did win the 2 matches, there's a lot of concern and discourse amongst fans, and I'll get on to that when I talk about the negatives. When it comes to the positives, as I said, we won both of the matches. That is huge. Winning the first 2 games, getting started off on the right foot is the best thing we want to see. I mean, Iran is one of 3 nations left in Asian World Cup qualification that got all 6 points, maximum points in this international break. And the other 2 nations was Uzbekistan, who is in Iran's group, and they will face off against them, which I think will be the true test for Iran when it comes to their matches in this group, and see, can Iran compete with some of the big boys? Because in my opinion, I think Uzbekistan is going to be the hardest team to beat in this group, which we already saw because they were in Iran's previous round of qualification. They weren't even able to beat them in both the matches. They both ended in draws. So I will be very much interested in that. But nonetheless, back to the main topic at hand. They won both of the matches. They kept clean sheets. That's the big positive in my book. The UAE match was definitely the better match of the 2. The Kyrgyzstan match, I'll get started with that, was really, really hard to watch. I understand the pitch conditions. It wasn't good. It's just the common shit that the Iranian national team always has to deal with when it comes to poor training facilities, the pitches they play on in Iran, and I don't want to use that as part of the excuse on why they played so poorly, but it does play a small part. But again, I'm not ruling that as part of the reasons why they did play bad in this game, because in regards to the controllables, what they could have done in this game, Al-Noi's starting lineup in this game was incredibly questionable. A lot of the fans wanted to see a bit of a switch up when it comes to the starting lineup, but we're still playing pretty much the exact same lineup from the 2022 World Cup, from the recent Asian Cup. There was not really any significant changes. I think the 2 great selections that Al-Noi made in the starting lineup against Kyrgyzstan was playing Hazbavi and Yusufi, 2 of the younger defenders on the team. And in all honesty, I think Yusufi was one of the best players on the field against Kyrgyzstan. Hazbavi, as well, as a guy that I'm preaching should be the starting center back with Majid Hosseini when he's 100% fit for the national team. Because Khalilzadeh and Kanani, again, yes, we didn't concede any goals, but I really just don't think they add any value to the defensive line. I don't mind if maybe you have one of the 2 in the 18 in the squad for matches, but they should not be getting significant minutes. The biggest concern when it comes to the Kyrgyzstan match was we weren't able to create any clear-cut chances. In very Iranian national team World Cup qualification fashion, the team only won 1-0. A win is a win, don't get me wrong, but Kyrgyzstan is probably the weakest opponent in this group. And for the fact that Iran didn't really create any clear-cut chances, I'd argue Kyrgyzstan created more clear-cut chances than Iran. The best 2 chances Iran had in this game was 2 long-range shots from Nur Afkan, which one of them was spilt by the goalkeeper, which was very poor goalkeeping, where Taremi pounced, he scored, and that's pretty much how Iran won the game. But for the fact that Kyrgyzstan were able to create more and better chances than us in that game, that's what pissed off a lot of fans. The starting lineup selection wasn't good, the substitutions wasn't good. It was just kind of frustrating to watch. The players that he started, the players that he brought in, not giving Saeed Manesh any minutes in that game, where he could have probably been a guy that could have broken down that Kyrgyzstan defense and maybe made something happen. But he didn't get any minutes across the 2 games, and that's going to be part of some of the negatives I'm going to talk about. We got the win. It was fine, but it just felt like, I don't know if it was just me, you guys got to let me know in the comments down below, but it just felt like a draw. It was so stale, dull. Against a team like Kyrgyzstan, we've seen the Iranian national team beat them 5-0 before, and it just felt like we played so defensively, as well as giving Yusufi his flowers in this game. Baranvan, a guy that I kind of just didn't really want to see anymore in the national team fold in regards to being the starting goalkeeper. He actually played really well he was really, really solid across the 2 games, looked very commanding. And in my opinion, yes, our defense kept 2 clean sheets, but I think the most impressive player across the 2 games was Berimbau. And I think the reason why we were able to play so well defensively, one, because Carlos Queiroz ingrained that defensive mindset in us, and two, I mean, it's UAE and Kyrgyzstan. They aren't one of the upper echelon national teams, so they don't have players that are gonna put Kanani and Khalilzadeh on the spinner and absolutely dice them up. When it comes to the match against UAE, I think a lot more people were a little bit more nervous about this game because they came off of a huge 3-1 win against Qatar, who are the reigning Asian Cup champions, and so we thought they would be a national team that would really take it to Iran. But in all honesty, the UAE didn't really do much in the game. I think Iran definitely played a lot better offensively, created a lot more and way better clear-cut chances. Unfortunately, we were incredibly wasteful. Mehdi Ghaedi scoring the lone goal in this game, and I think it was a really good goal in regards to his hustle. He didn't give up in the play, won that 50-50 tackle, and just kept the shot on target, which most players just couldn't in this game. Good combinations from Mehdi Taremi, Alireza Jahanbakhsh, Ali Golizadeh, Sardar Azmoun. When all of them were on the field, I think there was good moments from each one of them. But the thing is, though, there were so many chances from Taremi, Azmoun, where we could have iced the game off, made it 2 or 3-0. And I know in the past, Iran have never like absolutely blown out the UAE, but this truly could have been a game where that could have happened. Definitely was an improved match, and as well, similar to Yousefi playing really well in the previous game, Hardani played really well in this game. Both the right backs, the young, hungry, new implemented players in the 2 games, were the ones that kind of just impressed me the most, added some freshness, something different, a different dynamic to the team. And that is why I think most fans want to see those younger, hungry players start getting more minutes. And so I'm going to move on to more of my negatives. We won the 2 games. We kept clean sheets. That's good. But in regards to the squad selection this window, it pissed off a lot of fans. I mean, Nuraf Khan being called up and as well starting both games, Moghalu, X, Y, and Z. I mean, how are these guys still getting called up to the national team? When we're seeing guys like Sahar Khizan, Hossein Nejad, Syed Manesh. Yes, Syed Manesh got called up, but Sahar Khizan and Hossein Nejad not even getting called up whatsoever. But then when you watch them play, they look so good in the Russian league. They have dynamism. They add something different to the offense, which guys like Moghalu and Nuraf Khan, yes, Nuraf Khan played well against Kyrgyzstan with his long range shots, but he wasn't breaking down the UAE and Kyrgyzstan because he was a good midfielder progressing the ball forward, good dribbling, good tempo, like a guy like Hossein Nejad could. And then leads on to the starting lineups in these 2 games. As I said, Hazbavi, Yousefi, Hardani, these are the guys that should be starting these type of games. I'm okay if they make mistakes or don't play as well, but they're younger and will grow into those roles a lot more. I feel like a guy like Jalali would be so much more useful at that left back position than Milad Mohammadi. The midfield, as I said, Nuraf Khan. Just, I don't understand how he's still getting called up, starting games for us in World Cup qualification, when there's a guy like Gorbani who's on the bench and is playing so much better and just adds so much more to the midfield. Then back to one guy that I've already mentioned, Syed Manesh, arguably the best player outside of Taremi this season so far from all the Iranian national team players. He's one of the best players right now, if not the best player in the Belgian Pro League. But he saw a whopping 0 minutes across these 2 games. That is so bizarre to see. And you guys all know me. I love Jahanbakhsh. He's my favorite Iranian national team player, but he shouldn't have been getting this many minutes in these 2 games. For the fact he hasn't played in ages. He's still a free agent. And Saman Qudus, yes, he's a great midfielder, arguably Iran's best midfielder, but as well, same thing as Jahanbakhsh. He's a free agent. How are these guys getting so many minutes when there's a guy like Syed Manesh who's playing really, really well at club level in the Belgian Pro League, but just doesn't play? I understand Jahanbakhsh, he's the captain and whatnot, but it's okay to give a guy like Syed Manesh, who I think this was the best time to give him some significant minutes in World Cup qualification, either in the striker role, the winger role, it doesn't matter. Just play him. That's what I think frustrates a lot of us is guys like Sahar Khizan, Hossein Nejad, Saeed Manesh, and whoever. You guys can let me know in the comments down below. I can't think of every single player, but so many good youngsters snubbed, not playing over guys like I've mentioned that just shouldn't be a part of this project. It just shows the average age for this team right now is 30. I just can't believe it. Does my head in that we're about to roll out the same lineup as we did in the 2022 World Cup and Asian Cup for this qualification and possibly for 2026 with not really any new additions. When Amir Qalanoui promised all of us that he would start implementing the young players starting to build that new generation for the Iranian national team. And in my opinion, I think he's starting it late. When he even said that, I felt we should have been doing that at the Asian Cup, but I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But he's still not doing it in Asian World Cup qualification. And games against Kyrgyzstan or North Korea, you know, those lesser opponents, I feel like that would be the best time to play guys like Sahar Khizan, Hossein Nejad, Saeed Manesh, Jalali, Yousefi, Hazbavi, whoever it may be. Because if they're not going to play in those games, they're definitely not going to play against the likes of England at the World Cup. They need to actually gain experience at national team level. And Qalanoui is so cheeky, always calling up Shakuri just to bring down that average age for the squad call-ups, even though we all know he's not gonna play, especially when you call up 4 goalkeepers. I mean, how pointless and just dumb is that? I think the main complaint throughout this window is just the lineup and the squad call-up. I think the performances were fine, and I think the reason why we saw such stale performances was due to the stubborn lineups that Qalanoui picked out. I will say, I don't think the match against UAE was entirely his fault. As I said, we did create like 3 to maybe 4 really good chances that were just spurned in this game. But regardless, I mean, giving a guy like Saeed Manesh is like something within our control. Giving a guy like Golizadeh more significant minutes. As I said, I love Jahanbakhsh, I love Qudus, but they're free agents. They haven't played in competitive matches in God knows how long. I don't mind if you want to call them up as experience, as Jahanbakhsh is the captain, but they probably shouldn't be getting significant minutes. I did do a video talking about my ideal Iranian national team starting lineup for this 2026 World Cup qualification going into the 2026 World Cup. So if you guys want to check out my opinion of players that should be in this pool starting on the bench, should be a part of this rotation, make sure to go check out that video after you finish this one. But yeah, to wrap up today's video, I think it is important that we won the games, but like Iran is at a point where qualifying for World Cups should be the norm. I mean, I don't want to sound like snobby about it, but it should be. We've qualified for 3 straight World Cups. That is what Carlos Queiroz wanted to build in regards to the Iranian national team culture and how we play, that we will always be consistent contenders qualifying for World Cups from the AFC. So winning these games, in my opinion, should be the given, but it's more of a matter of experimenting, implementing younger players, bringing in fresh crop of talent to the senior national team fold. This is the time to do it, not to be stubborn and pick favorites for qualification. And that's what Qalanoui is doing, because these older players that were part of our generation in 2022, the Asian Cup, they're not gonna get any better. Yes, they're experienced, and it's okay to have a few of them sprinkled in the starting lineup in the 18, to have them in the team, but the more ambitious, hungry, young players should be the ones that should be the spearheads for the national team now. And I think would add a different dimension where these games against Kyrgyzstan or Hong Kong, against North Korea, they can create chances, make the game less stale, add that dynamism that this team needs to break down those teams that are going to be stubborn against us. There just needs to be more options, more players in the pool that are not aging, not going to be almost 36 of the 2026 World Cup. And the final point I want to make is for the fact that we're playing such an experienced lineup that has been there, done that, played these matches in World Cup qualification many times over. Wouldn't you expect the results and the performances to just be that little bit better because they've done it? You know, you're playing an experienced lineup, so you'd expect more experienced results, better performances, less stale performances. But even then, they're not even cutting it at that point. So that is why I just want to see implementing the younger players, because surely the performances really can't be that much worse if you start a guy like Hossein Nejad or Saeed Manesh in these type of games. Surely not. What do you really have to lose in matches like, for example, against Hong Kong in the previous round? It only benefits the player and it only benefits the development of the national team. We can't keep relying on the same group of players. I can't believe it is 2024 and I'm still talking about the same group of players I was talking about back in 2018. And I think the real test and where we can finally, really press that panic button of, does Qalanoui really deserve to keep being the national team coach going into the 2026 World Cup? Because with me even included, a lot of fans are just kind of done with him lying to all of us, saying that he was going to implement the younger generation in these upcoming games after the Asian Cup, because he hasn't done that. He's like, yeah, called some of them up, but hasn't actually played any of them. Like Hossein Nejad has been in a few of the call-ups, just hasn't played. Saeed Manesh has been a part of the call-ups, just hasn't played. Shaqiri has just been there for essentially the memes to lower the average age. Gorbani has been there playing small cameos, but really should be starting a lot of these games. So yeah, fans are just kind of done with the fact that they've been lied to, and for the fact that the performances are so stale with such an experienced group. So there's really just not any excuse for Qalanoui. And I think these upcoming games against Uzbekistan, Qatar, it's going to be our toughest international break. It's going to be essentially the make it or break it to see where do we stand in World Cup qualification, because those are the two heavy hitters. Yes, Qatar hasn't played well so far. I don't even think it's registered a win yet, but they beat us in the semifinal of the Asian Cup. Revenge is on the line. Uzbekistan is one of those three nations, like I mentioned, that has gotten maximum points. If Iran can win those games, you know what? I'll put my hands up. But we'll see. I mean, that upcoming window against Uzbekistan, Qatar, we'll see what times those games will be at. I'll try to do a watch along for at least one, if not both of the matches. In my opinion, those are the games that are really going to show us, where does Iran stand in this qualification group? Will it be a comfortable road to qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, or will we see some speed bumps due to how Qalanoui lines up the teams for this game, his tactics, and X, Y, and Z? And I think that will be the true showcasing of whether fans should truly be pressing that panic button that Qalanoui needs to take the boot. We need to see someone else leading this national team in the 2026 World Cup. I think most fans are already on that, but if we lose to the likes of Qatar, Uzbekistan, or play really poorly against them, I don't really see much defending Qalanoui. But boys and girls, that's going to be the end of today's video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What were your guys' positives, negatives from these two matches against Kyrgyzstan, the UAE? You guys got to let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to smash the like button on today's video, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I hope you all have a lovely day.